Tell me if you remember this.
But at the unusual direction of Barack Obama at the time, the intel community published implausible intelligence suggesting otherwise. Why? To sabotage the incoming president. This is truly one of the greatest political scandals in American history.
That was 2 weeks and 4 days ago. So what happened to one of the biggest scandals in American history? We haven't really heard that much about it. Must have just magically gone away. Remember the Texas floods that killed 135 people? Survivors there are still finding body parts floating in the water that local authorities haven't bothered to come clean up yet. They're also still waiting on money from FEMA, which hasn't showed up yet. But let's take a quick look at something else from right around the same time of the biggest scandal in American history and the deadly flooding in Texas.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
Now, of course, we're talking about crime in Washington, D.C. and redistricting in Texas. We definitely weren't talking about either of those things 2 weeks ago when the White House was rolling out its damning information on Obama and others in what they called one of the biggest scandals in American history. We damn sure weren't talking about either of those things a month ago when Trump was desperately trying to get rid of the Epstein story and just before deadly flooding in Texas. But here's a couple things on Texas and Epstein that are definitely starting to get lost in the shuffle as this redistricting fight takes up a lot of attention. And of course, Trump is taking up a lot of attention by being Trump, but also sending National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. This morning, Republicans in the Texas Senate passed a bill that will hopefully provide funds for emergency alert sirens in the areas that were affected by deadly flooding last month. Of course, prior to today's vote, those same Republicans were busy blaming Democrats for not showing up because they're trying to prevent a quorum from being held so that Governor Greg Abbott and other Republicans can institute essentially what are racial gerrymanders so that Republicans can pick up seats in the House of Representatives. It was Republicans who decided to not fund a lot of the stuff that might have helped prevent some of the death and destruction as a result of the flooding last month. You might remember this story from the Texas Tribune at the time of the deadly flooding that talked about Republicans' opposition to funding things like emergency alert systems. In the wake of the deadly flooding, as the Texas legislature resumed a special session so that they could address the screw up of not funding the emergency alert systems that they missed the first time around, a committee met to discuss several bills that would hopefully remedy the situation. One Democrat on one of those committees noted that when he and his Republican colleagues were meeting to discuss the bills, no one from Texas Governor Greg Abbott's office and other state agencies showed up to provide their input. Now, the bill that they passed today in the Texas Senate will leave it up to Abbott's office to hopefully provide funding for the emergency sirens that could save lives in the event of future catastrophic flooding. Will he? I don't know. Meanwhile, on the Epstein front, a federal judge yesterday declined to release grand jury testimony and other documents tied to the government's case against Epstein. The judge said that the Trump administration and the Justice Department was trying to pull off, quote, an illusion, like a magician's trick, on its supporters to make them think that they actually wanted to have this material released when they knew that the judge was never going to agree to release it at all. He also said that the Justice Department's argument to release the material because it could contain new information on Epstein's crimes and maybe other people who were committing them right alongside him was, quote, demonstrably false. That's because the documents that the Justice Department was trying to have released really only deal with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, who, by the way, has been shuffled off to a lower security prison for reasons unknown. So while the disastrous and deadly leadership of Republicans in Texas has sort of gotten lost in the shuffle as they've engaged in a redistricting fight there on behalf of the president so that he can get more seats in the House of Representatives and Republicans can maintain their slim majority there, the Epstein case has also been simmering. Not really sure what happened to that.
One of the greatest political scandals in American history.
Whatever, we're past that now. You know, sometimes I think that the only thing that's saving us from abject authoritarianism and just straight up tyranny is all of the sloppiness and incompetence that these people display on a daily basis. But still, authoritarian threats and crackdowns continue, aided liberally by a dismantling of the truth. Here's Jeanine Pirro today in today's unhinged press conference about crime in Washington, D.C.
All I know is we rank in deaths. 2 years ago, we were one of the fourth highest. We were the fourth highest in the United States. I don't need any more statistics.
Of course, this whole thing about never believing stats or facts or data or reporting or whatever you want to call it that you don't agree with is obviously par for the course for the Trump administration. That's why Trump fired the Bureau of Labor Statistics chief, because she put out accurate job numbers that he didn't like. He replaced him with this guy. That guy said today that maybe we don't even need monthly job reports. This is just further evidence to me that everyone involved here thinks that they're entitled to do what they want, regardless of what the facts say, and especially regardless of what the rest of the country wants. Maybe this is why the Pentagon is preparing something of a domestic strike force of National Guard members who are ready to deploy at a moment's notice to any situations that I guess Trump disagrees with or that they can call civil unrest. It seems to be in line with the general mindset that if local cops don't crack down on protesters or opponents of the president in a way that he likes and appreciates, he'll just send in the National Guard or this strange National Guard strike force team of special forces to go in and quell protests. Unfortunately, none of this is stopping anytime soon. And if local police don't beat people up that Trump doesn't like, and for some reason he's not able to send in the National Guard or his strike force of guardsmen, he's always got his extremist supporters who can finish the job. Like the guy who was so fired up over vaccine conspiracy theories that he shot up the CDC over the weekend. In the process, he killed a rookie police officer who had a couple of kids and one on the way.